This is Tom Fox. Welcome to another episode of Creativity and Compliance, where with my co-host, Ronnie Feldman, we take a look at training and communication issues. Today, we ask the question, is it okay to laugh at work? Hello, everyone. Tom Fox and Ronnie Feldman back for another episode of Creativity and Compliance. Ronnie, here's the question of the day. Is it okay if we laugh?
Is it okay if we laugh? Right. This is this topic originated because I had a client once who we had convinced. Let's just say we had convinced his team of ethics and compliance officers underneath the chief compliance officer wanted to do things more interesting and entertaining, and they had acquired some videos, and the compliance officer said, "Hey, I'm gonna try one of these." So they had like an all hands meeting, and they played. He played a video, and it's supposed to be funny, and people didn't laugh. And he tells me the story later, and he says, "Gosh, I'm up there, and I'm like, gosh, why did I listen to those guys? They were telling me to do this thing, and it totally bombed." And he said somebody raises their hand and said, "Is it okay if we laugh?" And he was like, "Yes." And he didn't realize in that until that moment there was such fear and angst and apathy in the room that nobody was listening to what he was saying. Like they were basically in their own heads. And by playing that video, they were surprised, but there was it was such a jarring thing that they didn't know how to respond. But then ultimately opened up dialogue, and then they talked about it. And so he vowed to always try and do something interesting. Because he didn't realize how much fear and anxiety was in the room just by the nature of ethics compliance showing up in the room. So the most common thing that I hear, and obviously I traffic in an organization that creates entertaining, comedic, musical, multimedia around ethics compliance and corporate risk, the most common thing I hear from that stops people from doing business with us, or the objection is, "Gosh, we're a really conservative company," or "I don't know, we take the issues really seriously," or I don't know if this will really fit our culture. I mean, I think it's great, but I don't know if it's really going to fit our culture. Or the another big one is like, "Gosh, this is really cool. I'd love to do this, but my boss really doesn't have a sense of humor." And I want to jump through the phone and go like, "What are you talking about? Like the reason that your culture is conservative is because the way you choose to communicate. If you're communicating conservatively, then people will perceive it to be conservative. But we all know as human beings that we all watch TV shows and listen to dramas and go to movies, and we watch music videos, and we participate in game shows. Like we all have this human desire to be entertained. And we also know that that is an effective way to teach people. Yet we use these I'll call them excuses to stop us from moving forward. And obviously it's a risk averse organization by nature. My point is that there's this disconnect here. Is it okay if we laugh? We know that it's okay that we should laugh, and we need to do a better job of building the case study of why this is more effective. Because your boss, I guarantee, does have a sense of humor. What the boss cares about is, will this work? Will it be a more effective way to do things? And where I think we as a community fall short is we take that no and we go, "Oh yeah, we can't do that," because we never have before. Where what we should be doing is showing them the information of why this is a more effective solution, because it is. And then there's there's a better likelihood that you will be able to stop this quote unquote conservative training and communications, which I think is hurting us because people aren't learning. What do you think about that? What's your reaction?
So, Ronnie, what I thought I heard you say was create the business justification. Take the business process, stop talking about compliance because you have to, and say, here's the business justification, but more importantly, with the business justification comes not only the business solution, but hopefully the increased profitability or increased ROI, return on investment of the time and money and energy you put into that process. So it seems to me you've actually changed the conversation. We're not talking about compliance training. We're talking about a business process starting with a business reason, which we call a business justification to do it. And then for the outcome, we're going to show you increased ROI out that. And so, yeah, is it funny while we're doing it? Guess what? It's exactly what you're doing every day with your other business processes.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. I want to emphasize the point that there's always a leap that has to be made to try something different. But we all intuitively know that blending entertainment with learning is a more effective way, an effective solution. It creates emotional connections to go along with the cognitive learning, right? Like that you'll remember that. You remember 1-800-CARS for Kids that's stuck in your head. You remember the commercials from when you were a kid. You remember all these things and the simple messages associated with it. Other people, it's good to have like more cognitive learning, like I want to read it and I want to see examples of it, things like that. But a combination of both is more effective. We know that making those emotional connections, comedy, music, drama, stories, help with memory and recall, right? That stands with you longer. We know that when everybody else is communicating in a dry, milquetoast, boring way, that doing something interesting stands out in that noisy environment, and it actually will help you get more airtime and exposure, because people will watch things if it stands out and it's more interesting. And then the point that I led off with is, you've heard me make this quote before from John Cleese. He says, the main evolutionary significance of humor is it gets us from the closed mode to the open mode faster than anything else. Like that compliance officer was saying, it got people to listen to the very important things he was about to say because he had to shake out the monotony. There's countless examples in our everyday lives of spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The airline safety videos, the commercials and the jingles, the fun theory. We haven't talked about the fun theory in a while. That whole study about shows that the main way to change people's behavior is by making it fun and interesting. The piano staircase and all those things. The ROI thing is trickier. Like I think you have to do these things over time to show that they work. And that's things like measuring, again, the sense of organizational justice. Do people trust leadership? Do they trust they feel like they have a support system? You certainly can survey people to ask if they enjoyed or got more out of these trainings and videos and things than they have before. So I don't think there's a magic bullet. I don't think there's a magic one single way to do this. I'm a big proponent of trying lots and lots and lots of little creative things, because it gives you the most chance to engage the most people over time. Because we know everybody likes different things. Whether your boss likes a particular video and you like a different one is sort of the point. Everybody likes different things, so you should try different things. Anyway, I think that sort of summarizes what my perspective is on this. I think it's okay. Not only is it okay if we laugh, I think it's a more effective way to mitigate risk, to communicate and train in more interesting, provocative, entertaining ways.
Ronnie, that seems like a great way for us to end this episode. I hope our listeners will join us again where we explore perhaps a more topical topic for our next one.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
This is Tom Fox again. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Creativity and Compliance. I hope you will join us again for another episode. Creativity and Compliance is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.